Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of race number 3, season 60 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series here under the lights at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Second time we have been to this 2.66 mile super speedway this season. This hosted the season opener that saw Rodney Sullins go to victory lane. Last week it was literally coasting to the line. Chuck McClure picking up his first win of the season. The Chevrolet Silverados so far have a stranglehold on the checkered flags. Will we see another Chevrolet driver go to victory lane here tonight, or will the Fords or the Dodges, we got a couple of Toyotas, will they be able to break in to the winner's circle as drivers are trying in the very early portion of the season to make preparations not only for the playoffs, but also for the bracket series that will be starting up in the next few weeks. Hello, everybody. I'm Seth Cole, and tonight, 66 laps of racing await these drivers. Looks like we've got about 36 drivers that'll take the green flag here tonight. I'd have to double check, but I believe that is our biggest field so far this season, and we'll have to see which side of the coin are we going to be on in regards to what type of a finish we can expect. It's always the unexpected when it comes to super speedway racing, but in the last two races, the first two races of the season, we had one race where it was right place, right time with the caution flying for Rodney Sullins to win, and as we mentioned last week, it was a nail-biter of a fuel race where three drivers literally coasted across the start-finish line to gain the podium positions. Chuck McClure was able to save just enough fuel to be able to have the momentum get him across the line first for the checkered flag. We are winding down happy hour. These drivers will begin to grid up in just a few moments. As a matter of fact, those few moments have all of a sudden turned to right now. So let's take you through the starting lineup for tonight's third race of the season. It will be your pole sitter, the guy who went to victory lane last week, nabbing the pole position via random qualifying. That'll be Chuck McClure. He'll be alongside of Glenn Harris on row number 1. Bobby Farrell's going to be on the inside of row number 2. Nice to see Hank Middleton back in the field. He'll be on the outside of the second row and fourth. Wiley Coates with John Godfrey. They're going to make up the third row. Row 4 with Jeff Crivello on the inside and Terry Bombard on the outside. And then the top 10 will be completed by Ron Hagelin and DeMar Richard Martin in the 43. Cy Jones and Doug Kulik, they're going to be in row number 6. Row 7 finds Jason Scheck and Jim Gloud. Back in row 8, the other former winner on the season, Rodney Sullins. He's going to be 15th alongside of Greg Palmer. Row 9 is going to find Bernie Mobbs and Bob Seminara. And completing the top 20, it'll be Josh Metallic and Kelly Causey. Robbie Nisus, he'll be back in row number 11 with Ken Roberts. Row 12 finds Brian Schilling and Grant Wesley. Tim Novsker, he's going to share row 13 with Donnie Garrett. Bob Dixon will be back in row 14 alongside of Craig Hagley, and the top 30 will be completed by Jeremy Jeffries and Billy Elliser. 31st position will be JT Mayhew. Joe DeSpirito back in 32nd. Brian Rawson will be 33rd. 34th, Mark Paglia. 35th will be Wayne Pribnow, and Jessica Shelton will be 36th. Final truck in the field. Give you a look at your point standings coming into this race. Of course, top 12 in points at the conclusion of the regular season will be locked in, and then any drivers between 13th and 20th with a victory will also be in the playoffs. 1 point separation coming in tonight for the points lead. Rodney Sullins over Jeremy Jeffries. Joe DeSpirito sits 7 points back in third. We got a tie for fourth between Jessica Shelton and last week's winner Chuck McClure. They are both 10 points out of the points lead. Tim Novsker stands alone in sixth. He's 11 points out. Grant Wesley, the defending champion, 12 points back in 7th. Greg Palmer and Kelly Causey tied for 8th. They are 18 points back. And then we've got a three-way tie for 10th position between JT Mayhew, John Godfrey, and Brian Schilling, 19 points out of the points lead with 36 trucks taking the green flag here tonight. A lot of positions can be gained and or lost depending on the type of result that you have. And our 37 drivers that have taken the green in the first two races are only separated by 76 points. So expect a lot of moving and shaking being still quite early in the season. Not just the season, but the regular season as well. As typical at both Talladega and Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, the extra few hundred feet through the tri-oval very much so can be a difference maker. You see the FRN Chevy Silverado pace truck dive onto pit road, turns the field over into the hands of Chuck McClure, who'll bring us down through said trioval, down to the start-finish line near the entrance of turn number 1, and race number 3 of season 60 of the RTG Talladega Challenge is about to be underway. Waiting on that flagman, and the green flag is in the air at BSR. Out of turn 2, Chuck McClure is clear on that inside line. Bobby Farrell right there with him. Wiley Coat also very tight draft on that inside line. Top 2 have gotten themselves clear up the top as Glenn Harris a little bit of a movement there. Gliding up the track about a half groove with Hank Middleton on his back bumper. That'll allow the top 3 to get clear on that inside line. Wiley Coat now slotted into the 3rd position. Side by side for 4th, Crivello on the bottom, Harris on the top as Chuck McClure led the last race, or the last lap last week. He leads the first lap this week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Double wide back around the 5th position. So far, nobody testing the waters for 3 wide. You're looking for someone to do it. Keep an eye on that blue number 4 back there, the Square D Dodge of Brian Schilling. There's one driver that is not willing to stay where he's at. Brian Schilling is that driver. I think he might have been backing up to try and generate a run there. Tim Nosker behind him in the 088, but for the moment, everybody stays in their respective lanes. Ron Hagelin now going to jump from the bottom to the top, picking up Jeff Crivello and trying to make a charge up here to the lead, alongside of Wiley Coat for the 3rd position. Ooh, but now he pushes up there. Not able to get a good tight draft there on the outside line. A couple of weeks ago when we brought you the season opener, me and my broadcast partner, Anthony McCurry, were kind of bouncing back and forth why the middle line and the outside line could get momentum and then suddenly it was like a switch was flipped and they started falling back. Well, I had the opportunity to be able to run this track in the Speed Freaks series a couple of weeks ago, and just from personal observation, it seems like it's really tough to be able to keep a good tight draft in the middle and extreme outside line, especially in the corners, because the way that the trucks are set up, a big run is generated by the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th truck. So there's a lot of lifting that takes place going into the corner to make sure you don't run over the driver in front of you. Thusly, there's a lot of loss of momentum that takes place. And I think that's a big reason when we have too many drivers up in those middle and outside lines, there's too much checking up that takes place, and that's what stalls out the momentum, as I think we just had a wreck. Yes, we did. Oh, they saved it. No, they didn't. Oh, they almost saved it. We got a number of trucks around. Jeremy Jeffries, Mark Paglia, JT Mayhew, Bob Dixon, Brian Rawson. Someone was sideways there. It was an orange truck, maybe Jim Gloud. And he slid up, I think it was into Jeremy Jeffries. I only got a brief glance at it live. We'll obviously go back and see via the replay all of what happens. There's some pretty good damage on the right front there of the 143 of Bob Dixon. But I think that Gloud slid up into Jeremy Jeffries. Gloud was able to save it, and I guess there was just some reactionary contact afterwards. Maybe it was Terry Bombard. It was one of those 2 orange trucks right there, and I'm not sure which one it was that I initially saw get out of shape. Yellow flag waves for the first time here tonight as things stack up a little bit there on the back straightaway. And we'll take a look here via the replay of what brought out this first caution of the day. Jeremy Jeffries, 2nd in the point standings, 1 point behind Ronnie Sullins, coming down pit lane, taking on some service, might be repairing a bit of damage. Let's see if we can pinpoint this. Go back to the middle of this back straightaway, see if we can figure out how this initially kicks off. think Middleton was blinking there, but let's watch for the orange truck. Is it Terry Bombard? It was. Oh, little contact between Terry Bombard, his left front, and the right rear of Bernie Mobbs. He shoots up the track, and he was able to save it, but everybody else was not. Take another look at it here. See if we can focus it on the 338. Hopefully we'll get that shot of the contact between the 10 and the 31 on the left side of your screen. There it is right there. Kelly Causey goes up, pounds the wall pretty good, and, oh, yeah. So Jeremy Jeffries bounces off Tim Nofsker, and then I think it was Brian Ross and Bob Dixon make some contact a little further back. Drivers not sure if there was going to be a wreck or not. They were making evasive maneuvers just in case someone was going to be spinning in front of them, and it led to the follow-up wreck. Go on board with the 6 of Brian Rawson. Take a look at what he saw heading into this wreck. We're going to take it on board with the roof camera. Yeah, they just started checking up. He hits JT Mayhew's square, and then he's got someone into the back of him. They all just started stacking up there. A lot of drivers that did not get the benefit of a good qualifying position via the random qualifying draw tonight caught up in this one with nowhere to go. Brian Rawson, Jessica Shelton, Mark Paglia amongst those, Wayne Pribnow as well. All of those drivers started very deep in the field in the last few rows. You got some drivers that are like playing some strategy here in the early going. Got a majority of our leaders come down pit road under the first lap of pacing. Now we got about a half dozen drivers coming down the second lap of pacing, including Cy Jones, Jason Scheck, Bernie Mobbs, Terry Bombard I saw there as well. Doug Kulik in the 23. There was another one there that I saw also coming down pit road. Perhaps not. New look there for the 31 of Bernie Mobbs. Mobbs must be either a lover of colleague racing or colleague schemes, because we've seen him quite often in colleague-related sponsored machines. Remember back when he had the Leaf Filter number 31. He also had the Celsius Energy car, and now he's got the, if I pronounce it correctly, Circle, I believe. Circle Water, which was a main sponsor, or is a main sponsor, I should say, of Daniel Hemrick in the Xfinity Series. As the lights are still on atop the pace car and around this racetrack, looks like Brian Schilling, though. He's going to be the one that will lead us back to green. Won the battle off of pit road. Chuck McClure will line up in second. And it looks like it'll be Bobby Farrow, Wiley Coate, Rodney Sullins. That will be the top 5. So the bracket series, as I mentioned, is going to be starting up very soon. I got confirmation. It will be race number 5 where the bracket series will begin. So we've got a couple more weeks for drivers to position themselves inside the top 32 positions in the standings. Get their respective seeds in which they will battle pretty much up until the end of the season in the bracket challenge on both the winner and losers side of the bracket. Always fun to follow that, and the funny part is when we talk to drivers during the course of a race or after the race, that's usually where their focus is, more so than it is on the points as far as playoffs are concerned. As Brian Schilling with an interesting move here. He's coming to pit road. Actually, Brian, I just noticed this is actually his first pit stop. He didn't pit yet under this caution period. I thought he did, but no, he's actually just now coming to pit road at the 1 to green. So that's going to move Chuck McClure up to the point. That will put John Godfrey up into the top 5. Well, tonight's race here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway for the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series is just the start of a wild weekend of broadcasts that'll be taking place here on the Flatout Racing Network. After the conclusion of tonight's race, tomorrow night we're going to be bringing you coverage of the Talladega Nights Fast and Furious Truck Series Championship race, and then Saturday night we're back here again as Talladega Nights, their Shake and Bake Series is going to have their championship race as well. Going to be some wild racing that we'll be bringing to you all weekend long. Be sure to join us tomorrow night and Saturday night as well. Good precursor here tonight for the wild events we're going to be having taking place here on FRN. Thursday, Friday, Saturday night matinee. All right, so they're all getting to their respective positions, doubling up for this restart. We gave you the top 5. Let's go a little bit further back through the field. Hank Middleton's going to restart in 6th. Glenn Harris 7th. Jeff Crivello in 8th. Greg Palmer and Richard Martin are going to complete the top 10. Bob Seminaro will restart 11th. 12th place will be Jim Glaude. 13th, Grant Wesley. 14th, Joe DeSpirito. 15th, Donnie Garrett. Then the top 20 completed by Craig Hagley, Ron Hagelin, Josh Metallic, Bob Dixon, and Kelly Causey. Working our first caution of the evening. Incident did not take out any drivers. All drivers came down pit road, have repaired damage, returned to the racetrack. All 36 drivers took the green flag. Still running, still on the lead lap. Early caution out of the way. Let's see if this now settles us into a long green flag run, as Chuck McClure's Chevrolet Silverado brought us down to start the race tonight, and he will bring us down to restart the race with lap 8 complete, lap number 9 going up on the board. Green flag back in the air. Things a little staggered middle to rear of the field there. Got a little spread out. I don't know if somebody had an issue getting up to speed there or not. Like everybody, for the most part, though, is all still up in this lead group. Double check and make sure there wasn't an issue, as a few trucks I'm actually not seeing back there. Brian Rawson being one of them. We'll double check and see if those trucks have maybe lost the pack here, and that might be why things got a little staggered, as side by side for the lead. Got McClure and Bobby Farrell. McClure's got Wiley Coate down on the bottom with him. Rodney Sullins, our winner from a couple of weeks ago, in the middle, and a third lane begins to form. That's Hank Middleton, the tie-dye Monster Energy Chevrolet, up on High, Wide, and Handsome Street with help from Craig Hagley, Josh Metallic, Kelly Causey up there as well, and they're gaining numbers. Doug Hulick, Jessica Shelton have jumped up there. Bernie Mobbs is up there. Ken Roberts, I believe I saw in the 55, is up in that third groove, and all of a sudden that middle line is gone. Bobby Farrell, Jeff Crivello, Richard Martin looking around, figuring out what the heck just happened as they start free-falling back outside of the top 5, and now maybe outside of the top 10 by the time we get to the back straightaway. Like everybody is up to speed up in this lead pack, so there's Brian Rawson. Thought that someone might have had a slow start, but that information was incorrect, as now Hank Middleton and company have moved down to the middle groove. Middleton, Hagley, Metallic, and Causey. That leaves Doug Hulick as the leader of the outside line, the third lane, I should say. And Middleton, still, those 4 trucks putting in the work in that middle line. He's alongside Chuck McClure for the race lead. Looks to pinch him down here on cornered exit off of 2. Try and get that straightaway speed down the backstretch, and he is inching his way clear of the 17. Not quite yet clear. McClure's got to battle back here on the inside line. McClure has so far led 9 of the completed 11 laps tonight. From the pole position, Cy Jones and Brian Schilling have led the other 2. That was under pacing. Can Hank Middleton be the 4th driver to lead a lap? Not this time, and maybe not next time, because Josh Metallic now with a big run up there in the 3rd groove. Got Kelly Causey behind him. Top 2, I believe, on the inside line. Hard to tell from this camera angle. I believe they're clear. Metallic now just barely alongside of Wiley Coates' right rear quarter panel. They have momentum. Let's see how long it takes for that stall out that we usually see. Middle groove is stalled out. Got 4 trucks there trying to maintain what they've got. And there you see, there's the stall out for that 3rd lane. Metallic was up as high as 2nd place, and I think Brian Rawson just got the wall there underneath the flag stand at the start-finish line. Metallic was up alongside the 5, and just like that, he's back alongside of Craig Hagley for 7th, 8th position. Like I said, a flip of a switch, and the momentum is gone. By the way, we are back under green. Forgot to update that. Chuck McClure continues to show the way. Wiley Coates 2nd. John Godfrey now in 3rd. And Glenn Harris and Rodney Sullins. That is your top 5 as they currently run. Good run there for John Godfrey, one of the 3 drivers in the 3-way tie for 10th in points coming into this race. Right now would be, I believe, in possession of a playoff spot. That would be really interesting if the season ended the way that the point standings are right now, because technically, with the ties that we have a tie for 4th, we have a tie for 8th. So 8th place tie would theoretically be 9th and 10th. And then you got that 3-way tie for what right now is 10th. That would be 11th, 12th, 13th. If it's a tie, does that mean that all 13 drivers would then make the playoffs via points? That would be a very interesting scenario. Here's an interesting scenario. The caution is out for the 2nd time tonight. And I do not see anybody that has had a problem. Oh, there is the culprit, Bob Dixon, in the infield grass on the front straightaway. Might have been, no, I was going to say the only one, but Terry Bombard as well. Not been a good night so far for either of those drivers. They're 2 for 2 and being involved in tonight's 2 incidents so far. Billy Ellis or Cy Jones back here. Don't know if they were collected or not, or maybe they just slowed for the wreck. We'll find out here. We drop back, take a look at a replay. Caution coming out on lap 15. The field was coming around to complete the 15th lap and put lap 16 on the board. Here's a look at what happened. Figure out where this starts. Oh, Cy Jones. Gets the 143 of Bob Dixon. Wow. Couple of trucks catching some air there. Both Dixon and Terry Bombard had their wheels off the ground. Fortunately, it was off of turn 4, so you have all that runoff space in the infield grass. Neither one of them hit the inside wall. Another look at this one here. The left side of your screen. Well, now the bottom of your screen. There's the contact there. Ron Hagelin appeared to be in some trouble ahead of Bob Dixon. I don't know. Oh, I thought that. Oh, okay. Well, I thought Terry Bombard and Bob Dixon had both cleared the inside wall. On further review, looks like the 10 got it with the left rear quarter panel. We're gonna go back just a little bit further, try and look at another camera angle because it almost looked like somebody, maybe Hagelin, maybe somebody ahead of him, had a slight issue there where they really had to lift on corner exit, and that's what led to the stack up and the eventual contact between Dixon and Cy Jones. Let's see. Oh yeah, Mark Paglia and Ron Hagelin both go down and clip the apron. That probably scrubbed off enough speed that when Dixon lifted to react, Cy Jones did not lift and spins the 143 around. The caution's out for the second time here tonight. Pit road will be open. This would be still earlier than drivers normally would make pit stops. But that doesn't stop a number of them from diving down pit road right now and taking on service. Robbie Nisus is going to stay out, get himself a bonus point for a lap led. A couple of other drivers might do the same on the next lap of pacing here. We are nearing a third of the way through this race here tonight. No driver was a lap down, so no driver is in need to be the recipient of the free pass. And based off of what I saw there, I don't think that anybody's going to be out of the race, so we should still have our 36 truck field when we get ready to go back green, which will be in a few laps' time. So while we wait for these drivers to play out their pit strategy here under the second caution of the evening, we are going to step aside for a quick break. You're not going to miss a bit of the action as we're going to be bringing you full coverage still under this FRN race break, courtesy of 260 Motorsports. Coverage of tonight's broadcast will resume right after this FRN race break. If you enjoy what you're watching tonight, be sure to give this video a like. Also, it would help us out a lot if you'd hit that subscribe button, and be sure to hit the bell to be notified when we go live here on the Flatout Racing Network. Coverage of tonight's broadcast will resume in just a few minutes. Hope you continue to enjoy tonight's presentation. Lights out atop the pace truck. We're getting ready to turn them loose once again for the second restart of the night at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Chuck McClure ready to lead us back under the green flag. We'll have John Godfrey alongside of him now in second place, Rodney Sullins in third, Wiley Coate fourth, and Hank Middleton in fifth. Our two previous winners on the season lining up nose to tail on that inside line in the first and second respective rows. Glenn Harris, Josh Metallic, Kelly Causey, Jeff Crivello, and Grant Wesley. That is your top 10 for this upcoming restart. Trifecta of races this weekend. As tonight you've got the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series drivers at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Tomorrow night we bring you coverage of the championship race for the Talladega Nights Fast and Furious Truck Series. They'll be at Talladega Super Speedway, and then the following night, Saturday evening, we're back with Talladega Nights for their championship race in the Shake and Bake Series. So a lot of 2.66 mile super speedway racing going on here on the Flatout Racing Network this weekend. Chuck McClure continues to show the way in the early going of this race. We're about to put lap 20 up on the board. John Godfrey hanging back a little bit here, trying a time when the green flag comes out. Wiley Coate right there with him. Rodney Sullins right on the back bumper of Chuck McClure. Let's see which driver is going to be the best pusher here in which lane. It looks like it doesn't matter. Chuck McClure was on the gun, ready to go as soon as the green flag dropped. And Rodney Sullins are going to clear the outside line before they even get to the exit of turn number 2. Rodney Sullins, last time we were here, of course, went to victory lane in the season opener last season. Jeremy Jeffries went on a 3-race winning streak when we would alternate and come back to this racetrack. Those two came into this race separated by 1 point. Jeremy Jeffries was involved in the first caution, though. Came to pit road, got the damage repaired, restarted back in the 23rd position, trying to make his way up here in the same zip code as the 38, as those two trying to duke it out, see who's going to lead the points heading into Talladega next week. Of course, it could be neither of them if somebody's able to have a good points day, since the points are super close with only 2 races under their belt so far this season. John Godfrey, that middle line, gets that momentum. What can they do with it? As he, for a moment on the back straightaway, was clear of Chuck McClure for the race lead. Now Chuck McClure battles back on the bottom. If Godfrey gets clear here, I think he needs to jump to the inside line. And he is clear right now. I think he's got to jump down to the bottom, because I feel that more drivers, they get pushed to the front in these middle and outside lines. They don't take advantage of jumping down to the inside, and we've already seen it numerous times tonight and numerous times in the past, including a couple of weeks ago, that all of a sudden that middle line or the outside line, it will stall out. And so all the work that you've done, it's really all for naught. Instead of moving forward, you go backwards. So I think there needs to be a lot more urgency for drivers, that as soon as they get clear in that middle line, they can immediately jump down to the bottom. And I know that there's a loyalty factor there of, hey, you helped push me up here to the lead, I'm going to stick with you and try and bring you with me. But I don't know, just the way that these trucks behave at this particular racetrack, and I don't know if it's entirely the setup or if it's the track or what. I think you gotta, if you're gonna keep your track position, you gotta be a little bit selfish and leave that driver out to dry. Bring yourself down to that yellow line to make sure that you're not gonna go free falling when eventually that momentum and that draft all of a sudden starts to go south, as we're starting to see right here. Godfrey losing a little bit of ground to Chuck McClure. That inside line formed up pretty well. Wayne Pribnow in the 44 has lost the draft. Godfrey's clear. Right here, you got to jump down. And he's going to stay up in that middle line. Got a third lane forming back there with Doug Kulik's Toyota. Got Jeremy Jeffries, Craig Hagley there with him. Greg Palmer, first time we've mentioned him tonight. since we listed him on the starting grid. And there you go, John Godfrey down to the inside line there. I really think that's a tactic that more drivers are going to have to adopt when we come here to Birch Screwdrivers Raceway, heading towards the playoffs in the end of the regular season. See how Godfrey moved down to the inside, and now that middle line is falling back. That would have been Godfrey as well. He would have been back alongside of Rodney Sullivan's for second, or Hank Middleton for third. Because he jumped down to the bottom, he now is up still in the race lead at the front. So while you've got that momentum that you can utilize in the middle and outside lines, I think really if you're going to maintain your track position, you've got to get to the bottom as soon as possible. And drivers watch these broadcasts back. They take notes. They take mental notes. Drivers will squirrel that away, seeing what John Godfrey was able to do here. We're getting close to halfway home here after we worked 2 cautions in the early going. We'll see if now, from here on out, pit road might be the deciding factor for the conclusion of this race. Someone just disappeared back there. See if they reappear. I did not see them all the way down the back straightaway reappear. Man, let's drop back here to what's going on middle of the pack, because got a lot of movement back here in these 3 wide situations. Jessica Shelton, Joe DeSpirito, Bernie Mobbs, Mark Paglia up the middle, Kelly Causey, Jeremy Jeffries, Craig Hagley on the top. Got Cy Jones, Donnie Garrett, Ken Roberts on the bottom. 3 wide for about 4 rows deep right now. Not very formulated on the inside line. About 2 truck lengths gap from Garrett back to Cy Jones. Then another 3 truck lengths back to Ken Roberts. We saw that the 44 of Wayne Pribnow had lost the draft. Like Brian Rawson has also lost the draft in the 6. Those 2 will be clamoring for a yellow flag to catch back up. If we continue under a long green flag run, there's every likelihood those 2 will be reeled in and put a lap down under green flag conditions. John Godfrey continues to show the way. Been a few seasons since John Godfrey last went to victory lane in the Tally Challenge. Trying to extend the Chevy Silverado stranglehold on checkered flags to 3 in a row. I believe I know the reason why we are having the issue. I don't think trucks are blinking out. I think that it's an error on my end. Bear with me real quickly here. Going to try and fix that issue. I believe I know exactly what the problem is. And yep, there it is. Hopefully we don't have a wreck here, as I'm currently in the process of making this quick edit. But we're still green. They kept it green for us. There we go. We should not have the issue anymore of trucks disappearing. It was actually a problem on my end, so my apologies for that. Top 7, I think, have got themselves cleared on that inside line now. Back to Crivello. Bobby Farrow, Wiley Coates, side by side for 8th. Split up at the rear of the field. Had that 3rd line that was forming. I think it was Doug Hulick was leading it. All of a sudden, that has tapered out. And look how you got about 6 drivers back there in their own little pack. Robbie Nices, JT Mayhew's a part of that. I saw Terry Bombard was in that group. And Roberts, I think, was another. Billy Elliser. Jason Scheck just trying to stay latched on to that group. Bob Dixon has lost them, so he's now lost the draft. There's the 6 of Brian Rawson. And the 44 of Wayne Pribnow has now been caught, and he is getting put a lap down as they're double file underneath the 44 through 3 and 4 and onto the tri-oval front stretch. Feel like there's quite a number of drivers that the first two races of the season, they've done really well. They're up there in the point standings, and we have not talked about them yet tonight. One of them is the defending champion, Grant Wesley. Last time by, he was scored in the 6th position. He's been very quietly working his way up through the field. Other driver that we haven't mentioned much, Tim Knopfsker, currently on that inside line. I believe he's about the 10th truck on the inside line as someone got really loose there on the bottom. I think that was Jim Gloud in the 72. Almost slid up the track. Very nearly had our third caution of the evening. Joe DeSpirito is third in the points, 7 points out, and I don't think we've mentioned his name at all. Right now, Joe is, last time by, scored in the 19th position, outside of the top 15, so very quiet night for him in the early going. Glenn Harris gets shuffled out there on the back straightaway. Jessica Shelton was actually up inside of the top 10. When that middle line was making a charge up to the front. Started shotgun on the field, got caught up in that first wreck. She's right now the 5th truck on the outside line. Last time by, scored in 16th, so she's done a good job of mounting a comeback from the early issues. And we went back green, I believe, on lap 20. So we are about a little more than halfway through a fuel run. We continue. Whoa, Glenn Harris up into the wall there now. Is he having some problems? Normally see a truck all by its lonesome get the wall there off of 2 unless there's some type of contact, but that thing just guided up into the wall. As we got a couple of drivers on pit road there, that's Ken Roberts and Jason Scheck. I was going to mention the fact of, would we start to see some drivers preparing themselves for a round of green flag pit stops? Now projected, they won't have to make those pit stops for another 7 laps or so. Maybe a little bit shorter than that for John Godfrey, Chuck McClure, who have been out in front for a portion of this current run. Brian Rawson going a lap down in the 6. And the 55 and the 33 that we just saw on pit road, they have now taken and pushed both of those vehicles back behind the wall. I'm not certain what went on there. I don't think we had a wreck. They are currently listed out of the race. Ken Roberts will get credited for 35th rather, and Jason Scheck will be 36th. I'm not certain what went on with those two drivers to cause the early retirement for them both. Tough break for both of those drivers, both Chevrolet drivers. Wayne Pribnow and Brian Rawson currently are the only 2 trucks 1 lap down, so if a caution were to come out, they would be in line for the Lucky Dog free pass. Hill double wide, nobody attempting a 3rd lane. Starting to see more drivers as soon as a hole opens. They make their way down to the inside. Kelly Causey, the 00, saw him just shift from the outside to the inside line, right in front of Jim Gloud. About 4 laps away from when these drivers have to start thinking about coming to pit road, making pit stops. Of course, we know these drivers very well versed in the art of hot pitting. That can be a blessing. It can also be a curse if you're coming down with a big pack of trucks. Normally, incidents that take place down on the access road to pit lane normally do not bring out a caution unless it migrates its way back up onto the racetrack. Even seen incidents that take place before you get, or after you get to that commitment line on pit road itself. Not always a guarantee that a yellow flag is going to come out in the second half of this race to allow you the opportunity to catch back up. So it's all about execution. I think execution on pit road is even more prevalent here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway than it is at Talladega Superspeedway, because Talladega Superspeedway is the track that they, season after season, week after week, were running at, so they kind of got good muscle memory there. Then when this racetrack made its way onto the scene and it was alternated between Talladega and BSR, you had to kind of get used to how the truck handled getting onto pit road here. And some drivers have been able to make the adaptation. Other drivers, they're still learning how to get onto pit road flawlessly. Starting to see maybe some radios lighten up. I think we might have some drivers coming to pit lane this time around. Safely say Josh Metallic, Grant Wesley, Tim Knopsker will not be amongst them as they've moved up to the top side there. Looks like Brian Rawson in the 6. He just made a pit stop. He's come back out onto the racetrack as we're stacked up 3 wide, making our way around him. That was sketchy. Jessica Shelton, Craig Hagley close there. Jeremy Jeffries as well. All right, let's see if we got anybody diving onto pit road this time. Here they come. It's a bunch of them. Oh, Chuck McClure. Oh, he came across the nose of John Godfrey, and he's going around in the infield grass. We got another wreck. Wiley Coate just got bumped into Bob Seminara. Ron Hagelin is facing the wrong way at the entrance of pit road. No caution will come out for this, however. It's deemed off the racing surface. I don't know who tagged. I couldn't tell who it was that tagged the 5, but he bounced off the passenger side door of Bob Seminara. Chuck McClure came across the nose of the 7-Eleven, at least from that angle it looked like it. Maybe Godfrey pushed right into McClure. One way or another, though, McClure was the one that paid the price. Here comes this group to pit road. Gonna be 3 wide coming out of pit lane here. Nope, we're up back to double wide. Ooh, little bump there from JT Mayhew to Greg Palmer. Sometimes that can shoot a driver over the speed limit and could cause a black flag. However, pit road does even out. So there is the possibility that that will not come back to bite the driver of the 22. Rodney Sullins won the battle off pit road of the drivers that came down in the first group. We'll have to see how Chuck McClure, where he cycles around to. A couple of updates here. Like Speed and Police got the 6 of Brian Rawson on his pit stop, so he's got to come back down and serve that penalty. And Wayne Pribnow, when he came down pit road, he made the left-hand turn to the garage, so 3 drivers out of the race as he joins Ken Roberts and Jason Scheck. Here's the battle for the race lead, potentially, with other drivers coming off of pit road. Rodney Sullins, John Godfrey, Bobby Farrell, Kelly Causey, Joe DeSpirito, Jeff Crivello all mixing it up. And with them all racing side by side, I think some of these drivers here were able to get out ahead of them. Shelton, Hagley, Palmer, Knopsker, they all were some of the later ones to pit. Here you've also got Grant Wesley and Josh Metallic. I think being part of that second group was the way to go. About a half dozen drivers that came to pit road the second time around in the second party now find themselves up in the top 6 positions. Bob Dixon got the lap truck in between second and third place. Chuck McClure, after the lengthy time on pit road after the spin, he's just barely ahead of the race leaders, actually making a pass here on Robbie Nisus. That would be for 29th. Those two are in danger of going a lap down, though, as here comes Wesley and Metallic. Shelton with a big run. Gonna go to the middle line. Now goes up to the top side here on Chuck McClure. 3 wide, keeps the momentum going, looking for the lead. Jessica Shelton, who started dead last, can she lead her first lap of the night here at the completion of lap 41? Scoring said, he did indeed. Actually, correction, that was the completion of lap 40 onto 41. And now Shelton down to the bottom in front of Grant Wesley. Whipped the apron a little bit there, stifled the momentum just a tad. Hagley now with the push on the top side. Gonna go to the point. Palmer clear for second. Nofsker looking to get himself clear for third place. Battle for the free pass position, hot and heavy right there as well. The 17, the 54, and the 143. Three drivers, only two of them can be the lucky dog if a caution were to come out. And based off of the numbers that I calculated just a moment ago, drivers are going to have to come to pit road at least one more time. Projected, they're going to have to pit with about 7-8 laps to go. I think more than likely for all drivers, they're just going to have to take on a can of fuel to reach the conclusion. Won't be the strategic call of taking on a half can as opposed to a full can. Wiley Cote on pit lane again in the 5. This has to be unscheduled as he's now going to lose multiple laps. Last time by, scored 3 laps down. That'll be a 4th lap right there. Saw Glenn Harris and Ron Hagelin together. Ron Hagelin got spun around at the entrance of pit road. Not sure why Glenn Harris is back here. These two right now in 27th and 28th last time by, trying to stay on the tail end of the lead lap. Got a pack of 5 here. This is 22nd back to 26th. Actually, there's 6 trucks here. Harry Bombard, Cy Jones, Mark Paglia, Bernie Mobbs, Billy Elliser, and Jim Gloud. Donnie Garrett and JT Mayhew in 19th and 20th, working together here. Like Bob Seminara, 18th place, is the last truck in this lead pack as they currently run, as Craig Hagley to the point. Craig Hagley last year got his first career win, albeit via a post-race penalty. He was second crossing the line, but by the end of the week was declared the winner of the race. Looking to see if he can be the first one back to the checkered flag here tonight for his second career win. Jessica Shelton, though, going to challenge on the inside line. Chevy Silverado versus Ford Raptor to the stripe. Think Hagley might have gotten it that time. And the scoring says that is indeed correct. Next time around, be 21 laps to go. Got a couple of drivers that have now also gone back to the garage area, joining the aforementioned trio of Pribnow, Roberts, and Scheck. Brian Rawson, after he came down pit road to serve the black flag penalty, he made the left-hand turn to the garage area. He'll get credit for 33rd. And Wiley Cote, saw him sitting on pit lane. No fuel, the reason for his retiring from the race. Remember, Wiley Cote had that contact on pit lane, and I'm wondering if maybe he missed his pit stall or something, tried to make it around another time, and they have run out of fuel and might have had to call a tow or something. But his day is done. He'll get credited for 32nd. 31 drivers still running, 28 of them on the lead lap, though don't think it will be for very long. There's only about maybe a quarter of a racetrack before this group will be reeling in Ron Hagelin and Glenn Harris. Hagley and company barrel into turn 3. There's Harris and Hagelin crossing the start-finish line, so maybe not quite a quarter of a racetrack. We'll say about a fifth of a racetrack, separating those two from going a lap down. The battle for the free pass spot is still fun to watch, too. It is still very close. 17 of Chuck McClure, the 143 of Bob Dixon, and then that turquoise number 54 of Robbie Nisus. Those are the 3 drivers right now battling for the 2 available lucky dogs. And I'll get it right this time. It's 15 laps to go where it is race back. It is not frozen field. We've not reached that point yet. We're currently sitting on 20 laps to go. So in the next 5 laps, it would be race back to the caution. So it would be frozen field at this point in time. And right now, if you froze the field, it would be Chuck McClure and Bob Dixon that would have the 2 lucky dog positions. Craig Hagley, let's see where he came into tonight in the point standings. 22nd in points coming into tonight. Oh, we got a wreck! Caution is out. Big wreck. Strike says I saw Grant Wesley involved in that. Jessica Shelton was in it. That was right up at the front of the field. Involved pretty much everybody in that inside line. Bob Seminara, Josh Metallic, Doug Hewlick, Robbie Nisus. And there were a host of others. Caution out for the 3rd time here this evening. Craig Hagley going to lead us back to the yellow. I was going to mention Craig Hagley started out the year in the first race this season 31st, and then a 15th place run last week gained him 9 spots in the standings. Looking to continue to improve here tonight. This yellow flag is going to change some things up because now everybody can come to pit road and they can make it the rest of the way. Remember, I said they were about 7-8 laps short of the finish. Now this puts them in the fuel window to make it the rest of the scheduled distance. Let's go back, take a look, and see what happened. Got a suspicion of what it might have possibly been. We're going to go back to the replay to confirm. Watch the entire inside line here, and oh, wow. Yeah, they all stacked up there after McClure came down. You had a number of trucks flipping. Shelton, Hewlick, Metallic. It was hard to tell from that angle there. Did our old friend bumper grab that might have taken place there? Was it a late bump from Wesley to Shelton going into the corner? See if we get another angle of it here. Might be tough to see even from this point. Really hard to tell there. Floor comes down, Shelton drifts up a little bit, and I don't know if Grant gets her in the left rear quarter panel. There you see trucks littering the infield grass on the exit of turn number 2. Several drivers up and over. First wreck where we've had drivers get damage that could potentially take them, if not out of this race completely, at least out of the race in terms of speed. Let's focus on the 39 of Metallic, and boy, I'll tell you what, it doesn't look like the 88 is into the left rear of Shelton. It's almost like there was warp that came into place or something like that, or just a weird hitbox. We might have to go to the aerial view to see. The 23 and the 39 all going up and over. There's roof damage on both Metallic and Shelton. Couldn't see if there was roof damage on Hewlick's car or not. Go to the helicopter cam. Let's get the aerial view because really difficult to tell. Go back to the start-finish line. Just coming past the start-finish line. So McClure is going to come down in front of Shelton. He's clear. Oh, yeah. It was really tight there on that inside line. Shelton was almost in the back of McClure, and Wesley, I don't know if Shelton checked up right there, because otherwise she would have bumped McClure in the corner, and Wesley gets into the back of Shelton. So the big one strikes here for our 3rd caution of the night. As I said, it takes place within the fuel window for drivers to be able to make it the rest of the way. So pit road will no longer be a concern, should no longer be a concern for the remainder of the night. Chuck McClure and Bob Dixon, I believe, were the first two trucks one lap down, so they should get the Lucky Dogs, be back on the lead lap. Robbie Nisus, I think, will be the only truck off the lead lap when we go back green, and Tim Nofsker is going to inherit the race lead. Not see, as we were back looking at the replay, did not see if he came to pit road already. If he did, then he's going to be the one that's going to get us back underway here. Bobby Farrell in second, Greg Palmer third, Craig Hagley, Joe DeSpirito now going to be the top five. Even so, we're still seeing drivers throwing in the clutch. Even though they should, they would be able to make it the rest of the way. We're already right now at 17 laps to go. They can make it 19 laps on a tank of fuel. Might just be force of habit. Next Thursday night, we continue on the 60th season of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. We'll be back to Talladega Superspeedway. Drivers should do pretty well there because they had a half hour of practice at Talladega here tonight. Admins must have forgotten where we were supposed to be. From 8 o'clock to 8:30, drivers were out here testing at Talladega before the servers swapped over to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, but a little extra track time for the drivers in preparation for next week's fourth race of the season. Apparently, Chuck McClure is not the lucky dog. Like Bob Dixon and Robbie Nisus are pulling up there to the outside line to get their laps back. All right, so McClure will actually be the only driver one lap down when we go back green. I was going to, before we end up just having that incident, I was going to run us down through our lap leaders on the night. So let's do that now. Chuck McClure has led the most laps so far this evening with 17. 15 laps have been led by John Godfrey. 6 laps led total for Craig Hagley. 2 laps led apiece for Jessica Shelton and Grant Wesley. And then all these drivers have taken 1 lap out in front. Tim Nofsker, Greg Palmer, Brian Schilling, Cy Jones, Josh Metallic, Ron Hagelin, Robbie Nisus, and Wayne Pribnow. Change that total from 1 to 2 for Tim Nofsker as he crosses the start-finish line, and the lights go out atop the FRN pace truck. Reminder again, we've got a full weekend of super speedway racing here on the Flatout Racing Network. Got the RTG Tally Challenge tonight at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Tomorrow night, it's the Talladega Nights Fast and Furious Truck Series at Talladega Superspeedway. Championship on the line. Then Saturday night, we're back here on FRN for the Shake and Bake Series for Talladega Nights. Their championship race there as well. I believe it is the final 5 that'll be duking it out for the championship in the Saturday night showdown. Appreciate everybody tuning into our coverage here tonight. If you're enjoying what you're watching, it really helps us out a lot if you'd hit the like button for this broadcast. If you're not already subscribed, we'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe as well. And then also, if you're on your phone, be sure to hit the bell icon, turn on notifications, so that way you are notified every time we go live here on the Flatout Racing Network. All right, so let's set the stage. It's going to be 14 laps to the checkered flag. Tim Nofsker out in front. Bobby Farrell restarting in second. I feel like he's been up at the front on all 3 of our restarts tonight, has that 92. Greg Palmer will be third. Craig Hagley in fourth. 5th place, Joe DeSpirito. Brian Schilling restarts 6th. 7th for Jeremy Jeffries. 8th place, Kelly Causey. 9th, Rodney Summons. And Mark Paglia currently completes the top 10. 31 trucks still running, 30 of them on the lead lap. Green flag set to come back out for the 4th time here tonight. 3rd restart of the evening. And Tim Nofsker gets back up through the gears and gets us back underway. You see further back in the field there, Josh Metallic moving low. Him going up and over, barrel rolling down the banking of turn 2 in our most recent caution. So apparently feeling that that truck is not going to be up to speed and off the pace, getting out of the way of faster traffic. Like Jessica Shelton may be doing the same. Both those drivers dealing with roof damage. Badly affects the trucks aerodynamically. Even in the draft, very difficult to be able to stay up to speed. That's a tough break for both of those drivers because they both came into this race running very well in the point standings. Jessica Shelton was in a tie with Chuck McClure for 4th in the points, and Metallic came into this race in 17th in points with a shot of making his way up into the top 12 at the conclusion. Both those drivers now are hoping that this continues to be a race of attrition. They can maybe vulture their way up a couple of spots in the finishing results. Everyone organized for the time being. Greg Palmer, Joe DeSpirito, down low with Nofsker. Top side, Bobby Farrow with Craig Hagley and Brian Schilling. Harry Bombard's now up here trying to peek into the top 10 after he was involved in the first 2 cautions of the evening. Good comeback there for the 10. Mark Paglia in the 28. Donnie Garrett in the 77. We haven't mentioned those 2 drivers much here tonight, and they're up here when it matters most in the closing stages. Both those drivers looking for their first wins on the season. Right now, the only driver that's got a shot, as things currently are scored, of being a repeat winner is Rodney Sullins. He's the 5th truck on the inside line. Chuck McClure is trapped 1 lap down in 31st place, needs another caution to be able to get back into this. Go for back-to-back victories here at the beginning of the season. He's up in this lead pack. He is the last truck on the outside line there behind Glenn Harris. He's not really racing anybody because he's the only truck off the lead lap. He would get the free pass. Nobody else would need it should a caution fly. A lot of movement right there in both lanes off of turn 2. Hagley slid wide. Greg Palmer slid a little wide. Both trying to now line up the bumpers to the respective trucks that they are pushing in the respective lanes. That could be another reason why we see the middle and outside line kind of taper off at certain points, is seems to be a lot of movement, a lot more, I don't want to say handling issues, but not as much handling security here at BSR as there usually seems to be from what we see at Talladega, where they're able to keep the draft, keep the lines nice and tight. That could be a big reason too, with not being able to secure a good tight draft, keep the momentum moving forward, why we end up seeing how the inside line, for the most part, end of last season and beginning of this season, has been predominantly the more preferred line in terms of keeping momentum up and keeping track position. But as I say that middle line, that second groove, gets a bit of momentum there. Going into turn 3, Bobby Farrell trying to get up alongside of Tim Nofsker for the race lead. A few seasons ago, Bobby Farrell made his way into the playoffs. He was one of the most consistent drivers as Bernie Mobbs down there on the apron through the tri-oval. Something happened mid-pack, but they kept it together. Bobby Farrell, though, still looking for that victory. Don't believe, I could be wrong in this, but I don't believe Bobby Farrell has ever won a Tally Challenge race. I could be completely errant in that statement. But he is clear to the point. Now the question is, does he stay up there on that outside line with Craig Hagley, or does he move to the bottom? Nofsker in that inside line, once they get formed, they're going to come charging back again. There is that charge. They're starting it right now. Nofsker getting alongside the left rear quarter panel of Hagley. Watch them here into turn 1. Watch the gap that Knopfsker's going to be able to close up right here. I think he's going to get alongside the 92 before they get off the second corner. Yeah, Doug Kulik, Jessica Shelton, Josh Metallic, and Bob Seminara all badly damaged in that last wreck. They are all off the pace. They have lost the lead pack. We've got 26 of our lead lap trucks up in this lead group right now. Robbie Nice is the last of those trying to hang on to the draft. Seminara is about to go a lap down. He's just now through the center of the tri-oval, the field barreling down his back bumper. They're going to catch him here at the start-finish line. You can just see how slow that 712 truck is. I didn't see Seminara flipping when we went back and were looking at those replays, but I do see some roof damage on his Chevrolet as well. So not what he was looking for here tonight, as Bob came into this race 15th in points, had a good run last week that gained him 5 spots in the standings. Dalton, Metallic, Seminara. Gonna take some pretty good hits in the point standings. Doug Kulik was 22nd in points coming tonight. He's off the pace, so he's gonna take a hit in points. Brian Schilling, who was in the outside line, swapped down to the bottom in front of Tim Knopfsker, and now he's charging up the inside for the race lead. Former champion from a few seasons ago. Actually, a couple of seasons ago. He was the season 57 champion. And he is to the point. Mention the fact that Chevrolet has won the first 2 races. Right now, you've got a Ford on the top and a Dodge on the bottom, trying to end the win streak at 2. We also are nearing the point of no return. Lap 61 will be completed. Lap 62 will go on the board when they come around to the stripe. We do have a lap machine in Chuck McClure, so that would mean an extra lap of pacing should a caution fly between now and the end of the race. So as they hit the start-finish line right here, more than likely, next flag is going to end this one here tonight at BSR. And they make it around for another 5 laps, clean and green. Start to see a third line form. Chuck McClure moving up there. Not sure if he's moving up there to try and move some drivers forward, or maybe he's being a lap truck. He's bailing out. Maybe he got shuffled out though too. Hank Middleton's going to go up there. Ooh, near contact between McClure and Billy Ellis are there off of turn 4. A couple of trucks are jumping up to that third line. Glenn Harris is up there now as well. And as soon as that third lane was forming, it is now dissolved back into the middle group. McClure going to try again though. Harris and Middleton there with him. Drivers in the second lane, they will notice if that line starts moving forward, they will notice it and they will start moving up. Try and make their way up further to the front. Maybe try and go for this race lead. Looks like we got a couple of slow trucks up ahead. I believe that is the trio of Doug Kulik, Jessica Shelton, and Josh Metallic all off the pace. The field was coming out of turn 2 as that group was going in. This time it'll be by about maybe half a truck length, maybe less. You don't have to lead the entire lap. You just got to lead when they come back around to the start-finish line. And so far, oh, there we go. Chuck McClure around off the nose of Glenn Harris. We got a truck up and over. That's Jim Glaude, Cy Jones, Hank Middleton involved. We're going to watch this race back to the start-finish line because this is it. This is for the win. Schilling on the bottom. Farrell on the top. Trucks in respective lanes are going to do a heck of a lot of shoving here through the tri-oval. Schilling is clear. Can Farrell mount a charge? Oh, they're splitting 3 wide now. That's going to lose momentum to the 92. I believe that Brian Schilling's going to be clear as he'll come around to the start-finish line. And oh, now they're wrecking under caution. Knopfsker's up and over. Hagley catches air. Paglia is involved. Oh, no. Rodney Sullins is collected up in it. Knopfsker's still flipping. Knopfsker crossed the line in second, and I don't know if that truck's going to be able to be under power to finish this race. Oh, smoking. Wild, wild ride for Tim Knopfsker. Mark Paglia, you can't see him back there behind the campers. There's Ron Hagelin. Oh man, it just all of a sudden went horribly, horribly wrong. Caution comes out. They race back to the yellow. They receive the caution, and drivers up inside of the top 5 wrecking. And now Bobby Farrell gets into Jeremy Jeffries while trying to go back up, I think, and get his position. And they're still wrecking again. Hagley is spinning. Donnie Garrett is spinning. It is complete pandemonium. Hagley's parked in the grass. Brian Schilling, all this is taking place behind him. Only truck he has to worry about is the FRN pace truck, because that's what's going to lead him around to the white flag and eventually the checkered flag. Now everybody's starting to catch up here, get themselves formed to where they need to be. I don't know if drivers are going to get the positions back of where they were scored when they crossed the start-finish line, but what we're gonna do here is we're gonna go back, look and see what actually brought the caution out first. Then we'll come back, we'll see Brian Schilling take the checkered flag, do his victory celebration. Then we'll go back, take a look at the replay of what happened after they crossed the start-finish line, and then give you your full finish results as Tim Knopfsker is gonna get his spot back. But look at that thing, billowing black smoke. Admins are going to have to be on making sure that they clear his black flag for dropping debris so that way he can make sure he does finish in second place. So let's see what actually brought out the caution to end this race. Chuck McClure, Glenn Harris, and a few others. A lot of movement was going on, but trying to formulate that third lane. Lee McClure is going to get hooked by the 8. A little contact actually between McClure and Jim Glaude, and that loss of momentum had Glenn Harris into Chuck McClure. Bernie Mobbs, Bob Dixon, Cy Jones, Glenn Harris, Jim Glaude, and Hank Middleton all spinning on the back straightaway. Oh, Hank takes a big hit into the inside wall. That's what brings out the caution and then leads to the incident that we will show you in just a few moments. After they raced back to the start-finish line, field is just now making their way into turn number 3. And Brian Schilling's going to get his first win on the season. I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe that Brian Schilling went winless last year. We double check on that just to make absolutely certain I'm not giving misinformation on that regard. And that is indeed correct. Brian Schilling did not go to victory lane in season 59. Let's see where his last victory was as they make their way into the entrance of the Tri-Oval. Brian Schilling's last win was race 8 of season 58 back on March the 2nd. It has been quite the winless streak for the driver of the Square D Dodge, but it snaps here tonight. Brian Schilling, strong effort in the closing stages, going to bring it to the line, and he is going to pick up the victory here tonight in race number 3 at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, season 60 of the Talladega Challenge. Brian Schilling with that victory very well has secured himself a spot more than likely into the playoffs. Brian getting the congratulatory bumps. Let's see, there's always one that spins out the leader. Who is it? This time it's Kelly Causey. There's always one. Little collective effort there between Bob Seminaire and Kelly Causey, but it was the nose of the 00 that Schilling spun off of. Brian Schilling will get to come around, and for the first time in over 6 months, half a year winless streak here in the Tally Challenge. Brian Schilling going to get to celebrate on the front straightaway here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. So 3 races, 3 different winners. Rodney Sullins, Chuck McClure, and now Brian Schilling. Brian came into this race in the 10th position in points. He was one of the drivers in that three-way tie for the 10th spot. This will move him up, I would think, probably with how close the points are, at least into the top 5. Nice burnout there in the grass. Slides up, doesn't hit the blue outside retaining wall, and continues his burnouts here on the front straightaway, heading down to the start-finish line. Do some points calculations and everything once we show you the full finishing results. It'll be very close between Jeremy Jeffries and Rodney Sullins, if indeed it's between those two for the points lead. Somebody may have sniped the points lead from those two, depending on where they finished. Brian Schilling continues the celebration. Let's go back now and let's take a look at the replay of what happened coming to the caution flag, involving a number of drivers that were up inside of the top 5. They all got their spots back. Tim Knofsker's truck somehow had enough power left in it to be able to make it back to the checkered flag. Here it is. We'll follow this through the trioval. This is the race back to the caution, and essentially the race back to the checkered flag here. The caution was already out. Watch the 92 on the outside line. Might have gotten a bump from behind by Craig Hagley and then spins down into Tim Knofsker. And look at Knofsker, up and over, catches the grass, does a backflip after he gets clipped in the rear deck lid by the 26 of Billy Elliser. And they were wrecking even further up as well. Saw another truck up there on the apron. If we get another camera angle here of this. Knofsker going for a wild, wild ride. And, oh yeah, right there. It looks like the 32 bumper grabbed the 92 when they crossed the line. I believe the truck up ahead that was on the apron, pounded the outside wall, was Mark Paglia. Ron Hagelin was down on the apron. This is Hagelin that the camera's focused on, but you can't see him behind the haulers. And then we ended up having, as the field was catching up, Bobby Farrell in the 92 trying to catch up to get his spot back. He's going to come flying in here and sideswipes the one of Jeremy Jeffries. And then Donnie Garrett, to avoid Bobby Farrell, comes down the track, and he gets Craig Hagley in the 32. A lot of stuff going on there in the closing stages of this race, but it all took place behind the 4 of Brian Schilling, who captures the checkered flag here this evening. And we will now take a look at the full finishing results from this evening's race. Brian Schilling with the win, Tim Knofsker second, Bobby Farrell third, Greg Palmer in fourth, and Craig Hagley will finish in fifth. Sixth place for Kelly Causey, Joe DeSpirito will be seventh, Mark Paglia eighth, Jeremy Jeffries ninth, and Donnie Garrett completes the top 10. Rodney Sullins, a points leader, brings it home 11th, Terry Bombard in 12th, Grant Wesley 13th. 14th will be Billy Elliser, 15th place JT Mayhew, Jeff Crivello 16th, Ron Hagelin 17th, then Richard Martin, John Godfrey, and Glenn Harris are going to complete the top 20. The rest of the finishing results here, as we had 29 drivers finish on the lead lap. Chuck McClure and Bob Seminara finished a lap down in 30th and 31st, and then 5 drivers out of the race by the conclusion. Wiley Coate, Wayne Pribnow, Brian Ross, and Ken Roberts, and Jason Scheck. Big for Chuck McClure that he got that victory last week at Talladega. 30th place finish here tonight is certainly going to drop him in points. Same can be said for Jessica Shelton and Josh Metallic. A lot of drivers are going to take advantage of the misfortunes they had tonight and move themselves up higher in the point standings. Speaking of the point standings, we'll wait for the official word, but I think It's going to be Jeremy Jeffries by 1 point over Rodney Sullins heading into next week. Joe DeSpirito is going to be in very close proximity as well. Tim Knopfsker is going to be very close also, though I don't think he's going to take the points lead. He finishes second. Jeremy Jeffries finishes ninth. That's 7 positions separating between those two, and they were separated by 10 points coming into this race. But I'm thinking that your top four in the point standings, which I think are going to be Sullins, Jeffries, Despirito, and Knopfsker, not necessarily in that order. It's going to be single digits. It's going to be maybe like 3 or 4 points separating those four. We'll get the official word on what the point standings look like once everything's calculated as we head now into our FRN post race wind down. It's time to talk to some drivers here that finished on the podium positions this evening. Let's see if we can kick things off with the driver of the number 92. See if we can dial up Bobby Farrell.
User was moved to your
Hey,
channel.
Bobby, it's Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got me?
Give me a second. I'm taking a sip of Mellow Yellow.
Already?
I got you guys.
Gotta rep the sponsorship there. I mean, man, third place here tonight. Had a strong truck all evening long. I mentioned it seemed like this 92 was always up inside the top 2 or 3 whenever we had a restart going on. You ended up executing on pit road. You had good track position in the closing stages. It just kind of seemed like that middle line, it died out there in those closing stages. I mean, what from what you were able to see was the difference factor in that? And was there anything you could have done to be able to get the momentum back, be able to get back up alongside that four coming to what was eventually the checkered flag via the caution?
Yeah, I don't know if there was much more I could have done there. I was pushing hard on the outside. I mainly had my eyes out the windshield. I wasn't using the mirror at all. I know Craig Hagley was behind me, and it seemed like it died out. I don't know if a couple people, got out of the lane and jumped to the bottom or what, but we had momentum, coming with like five to go, four to go, and then it just that inside line kind of took off on us.
Season obviously didn't get started the way that you wanted when we opened up the season here at BSR. 28th place finish, 19th last week, gained you a couple of spots in the stands. How important was it to finally get the ball rolling here in terms of forward momentum, getting this podium tonight?
It's important. I think it's more important for my sanity, to be honest with you, because those first two races, I know I had some computer issues that first race and fell out, which put me in the back. And, you know, um, these lotto starts, especially tonight, being able to start up third got me the track position in the beginning of the race, and we were able to keep it up front. So that definitely helped. But yeah, it feels good to, third race this season, stand up here on the podium and be able to talk to you guys for a change.
Yeah, you talk about that track position, and we've documented latter half of last season, beginning of this season here, particularly at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Uh, in order to move forward, you got to formulate that second and third lane, but there always seems to be kind of like where a switch is flipped, and all of a sudden the momentum that you guys had it starts to go away. So how important is it? We know that the qualifying is via random draw; it's completely up to luck, but to get that good starting track position, is that maybe more prevalent here than it is at Talladega?
Honestly, I don't know if each track has a preference. I think I mean, both tracks are very similar in how they race and how the styles. And I think track position is everything on both tracks because it definitely helps. I mean, I started in the back last week at Talladega and I finished in the back. So I really think track position from the get go and having that a pit stall up near the front certainly helps with the finish order.
Well, Bobby, a great run for you here tonight. As I said, up in the hunt all night long. You bring it home on the podium in third position. Congratulations. Before we let you go, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout outs.
Now, I definitely got to thank Craig for sticking with me and pushing me up to the front. Good friend of mine, Jamie Baker, for painting this awesome USA Air Force truck. And, my mom and dad was in the Air Force, so that's why I run it. And this one's for him.
Bobby Farrell brings it home third place here tonight after a wild finish at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Congratulations once again. Hopefully, this is a sign of good things to come. Keep this momentum going next week at Talladega.
I sure hope so. Thank you guys.
Bobby Farrell finishing in the third position.
User
Let's
was
see
moved
if
out
we
of
can
your
now
channel.
dial up the guy that brings it home in second place here tonight. See if we can get a hold of Tim Nofsker.
User was moved to your
Hey,
channel.
Tim, it's Seth up here in the FRN Studios booth. You got me?
Yeah, Mr. Lone Wolf tonight.
Yeah, well, I think probably protocol was as soon as you got climbed out of that 088 truck, probably had to go to the infield care center, but man, that thing was tough. I mean, smoking on those last couple of laps, but able to make it across the start finish line in second place. We'll get to that in just a moment. But let's talk about that race back to what eventually was the checkered flag there. The caution coming out in the closing stages. Kind of boxed in there behind the four in front of you. You had the 92 to your outside. At that point, are you just committed to keeping your line moving to try and get that second position, not really able to really think about being able to make a move for the win?
Honestly, I was committed to the four as soon as he got in front of me. We worked together. You know, we have kind of the same mindset when it comes to drafting and things of that. So, even if I was clear, I was content to push him and get second. You know, I'm just focusing on solid finishes and keeping myself up in the points conversation.
Yeah, definitely solid finishes to start out the year. We talked to you, of course, last week after you finished third at Talladega, the runner-up finish here tonight. So, uh, you know, interesting the trends that are going on here. I always love seeing trends, and the last two races now that we've had here at BSR have ended under caution. The first race we had at Talladega was the fuel strategy race. You were one of those three drivers that was able to make it to the start finish line on fumes. So, do you prepare this week for maybe a fuel strategy race next week?
That comes across every now and then. I mean, we don't have too many fuel strategy races, so when the opportunity's there, like when I was in the back of the pack tonight, I topped off the extra times. You always you have to be prepared for anything because everybody here is so good that you have to take every little advantage that you can get.
You talked about trying to get the most points possible. Points are in, calculated. You sit third in the point standings, but only 2 points out. So, which takes the priority for you in terms of the consistency and trying to get the points? Is it to get yourself a better seed for the upcoming playoffs, maybe get that regular season championship for those bonus points? Is it in preparation for when the different drivers are seated in the bracket challenge? Is it a combination of all of those?
Well, like I said, with a group like this, it's so hard to consistently be up front. There's so many players, and like tonight, Bobby Farrell, what a run he had. It's a shame that he didn't win because he kept himself up front all night. It's just one of 30 something guys that can just reach out and get that win. And you want to focus on doing well. You'd love to get that win, and you'd love to be regular season champion. That can help you throughout the playoffs. But I figure if I keep getting the finishes that I'm getting, the points will take care of themselves.
We started deep in the field here tonight. We're able to make your way up towards the front in the second half of this race. The execution on pit road on that round of green flag pit stops definitely playing a huge factor into that. You bring it home in the second position. Congratulations on a job well done. Before we let you go, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts, Tim.
Well, I'd like to thank you for toughing it out by yourself tonight, and I'm sure you did a great job. Congratulate Brian on a win. It was good to be able to help him. Also, thank Greg Palmer. He was instrumental in keeping us up there, and that middle line can overshadow the low line, and him, and I'm not sure who was pushing them, but everybody on the low line was doing such a good job. I'd like to thank Josh and Wiley, my admin cohorts here at the Tally Challenge. And then thanks Bones and Prime for doing such a great job keeping things together. And thank my daughter and her family. I got to see my granddaughter do a little volleyball before our race tonight, so that was a lot of fun. So thanks again, and hopefully we'll keep chugging along.
Well, second place finish here tonight has Tim Nofsker right up there in the points lead conversation heading into next week at Talladega Superspeedway. Congratulations once again on the good run, and maybe keep this streak of podium finishes going when we get to Talladega next week.
I'm sure going to try. Thanks again.
And let's see if
User
we
was moved
can
out of
go
your channel.
down to victory lane and dial up the driver of the number 4 Square D Dodge Ram. That would be Brian Schilling.
User was moved to your
Hey,
channel.
Brian, it's Seth up here in the FRM booth. Got a copy?
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, we documented. It's been over a season since we saw you in Victory Lane. Of course, a former champion of the series. I believe March 2nd, last time we saw you in Victory Lane, race 8 of season 58. So, first question, how good does it feel to finally get back to Victory Lane here in the Talladega Challenge?
Feels great. Now I don't have to worry about doing the points game. Trying to get myself locked in that way. I mean, I still gotta run good, but anytime you can beat 30 plus people, it's always a good feeling.
Well, you made quite the move. You were third or fourth truck, I believe, in that outside line. You shift down to the inside line. All of a sudden, it was kind of like, I don't know, you were able to bring life to that bottom lane. You guys start moving forward again. You get yourself cleared there off at turn number 4, not having to worry about defending either line as they were stacked up for second place. But then all heck broke loose behind you. So, I mean, what was that like? All of a sudden, all your competition crossing the start finish line is gone.
Yeah, that was weird. I looked at my mirror and it's like, oh, where'd everyone go? But yeah, you make the move there. I'm sitting there thinking, it's like, well, if this third line comes, it's going to pull the middle lane back. So it's like I wanted to get to the low line as quick as I could. Me and Tim run really well together. So it was like either I could run third on the middle lane, potentially, or not really lose much and try on the bottom.
So you talk about the fact that this win now, you don't have to worry about the point strategy of making the playoffs. So, with that being said, where does the priority shift to now with 6 regular season races still to go?
I mean, I still need to be, careful. I can't go out there and just, you know, drive, recklessly or anything like that, for multiple reasons. But, if there's a chance at taking some strategy and, taking a risky call like last week that Chuck did, it makes it a little easier.
Well, not only do you get this victory, but also gained a ton of positions in the point standings. Still a very young season. 6 points behind the points leader and fifth in the stands. It's super close amongst the top 5. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that all shakes out when we get to Talladega next week. We'll let you get back to your celebrating down there in Victory Lane. But before we do, we're handing the microphone over to you, Brian, for Victory Lane. Thank you, sponsors and shoutouts.
Thank you to Tim Nosker. Wouldn't have been able to win that without his push. Also, a big shout out to Greg Palmer. He was racing with heavy heart tonight. He lost his brother this week, so thoughts and prayers to him. We all love him here. He's great, funny guy. Just love having him around. So, like I said, we're thinking about you, bud.
Brian Schilling brings it home with the victory here tonight. First win on the season, and all but secures himself a spot in the playoffs, looking for what would be his second championship in 4 seasons. We'll see if he's able to close it out with still a long season still left to go. But for now, Brian, congratulations. We'll let you get back to your celebrating, and best of luck next week as you try and continue this momentum on at Talladega.
Thank you.
User was moved out of your
So
channel.
as Brian Schilling continues to celebrate the win here tonight, again, 6 months since his last victory here in the Talladega Challenge Series. And just on a personal note, did not know about this news of Greg Palmer, but want to give condolences as well to Greg and the entire Palmer family. I've had the pleasure and the opportunity to be able to race with this group on Monday nights and a few Tuesday nights, and love the camaraderie. And yeah, Greg is a great guy, and so obviously want to send best wishes to him at this difficult time. Thank you to everybody that tuned into our coverage here tonight, though. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, it's the trifecta of broadcast we're going to bring you here this weekend. Tomorrow night, we're right back at it as we're going to be covering the championship race for the Talladega Nights Fast and Furious Truck Series. And then Saturday night, we have another Talladega Nights Championship on the line. It's the Shake and Bake Series. Both events going to take place at Talladega Super Speedway. But the evening belongs to Brian Schilling, capturing his first win on the season. Your point standings, very close, as I mentioned. I said it was close amongst 4 drivers. It's close amongst 5 drivers. Jeremy Jeffries is the new points leader, 1 point over Rodney Sullins, 2 points over Tim Knopfsker, 4 points over Joe DeSpirito, and 6 points over Brian Schilling. My goodness, this is going to be fun to watch next week, as it's going to be kind of up, down amongst those 5 drivers to see who's going to be the points leader when we return here in 2 weeks' time to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. But thank you all for tuning into our coverage here tonight. Race number 3, season 60 of the RTG Talladega Challenge Series. Hope to see you guys next Thursday night when we go to Talladega. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when the green flag will fly. I've been Seth Cole, and you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your